than I am.
That sounds good. Well, we are Scott and El Marie Parker. So yeah, we are mission co-workers with the PCUSA, working with Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, and are due to COVID and just some of the global issues and everything. Definitely our work has been more centered on Lebanon these days, or at least the work with Syria and Iraq, especially for El Marie, is virtual. But we haven't been able to visit as regularly as we wish because of all the global things. Let's see. So home base is in Beirut. So we live, we live in one of the Beirut suburbs. So that's probably, I think, the longest we've ever lived anywhere except for our childhood homes.
And speaking of our childhood homes, Scott was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. And so we just, we were working from Nebraska for a few weeks so that we had a chance to reconnect with his family, whom we've not seen in 3 years. So that was really good, and had a quick visit with another part of the family out in Indiana. And now we're back in Oregon, where I spent most of my growing up years. And so we'll do the remainder of our work from here in terms of just opportunities like this to visit with congregations via Zoom or whatever other platform they're using. So grateful also that we're having some extended time with family after.
Yeah. And when do you go back to Beirut?
End of April is what we're looking at. So yeah.
So this has been a unique trip because we usually really look forward to that every approximately 2 years, going, and we do kind of a 4-month blitz through a region of the country and just spend time with you folks. And with this, we were given kind of a work at home restriction to do all these via Zoom, but with the situation in Lebanon, which we'll be talking about more next week, that just was not possible. With one, we don't get enough electricity for me to for me to run my computer for that long. To have I was in a presbytery meeting and lost power because because we don't have electricity for that long at a single time.
No one has enough electricity for a presbytery meeting.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, that's yeah. No one has that.
Yeah, so we'll talk in more detail about what's been going on in Lebanon next week. This week, we really wanted to have the opportunity to share with you the trauma resiliency work that a number of our partners are doing, and Scott is specifically involved with one of our partners, Middle East Council of Churches, in doing that work. And so Scott's going to share just about how that's developed and the needs that it's meeting, and some of the strategy that he and his colleagues are taking with that. So I think, unless you have some other kind of background type questions, we'll turn to that so that there's enough time to go into that a bit. And I know you all have been a part of this ministry through some additional gifts beyond our sending and support. And so this will give you a chance to see what you have been a part of. So looking forward to sharing that with you.
Well, yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks. That sounds
So I think you can go ahead and start screen sharing.
We'll do screen share here.
And then come here and hit play from current slide.
Okay, and I do need glasses for this. Okay.
There you go.
And I think I'm just going to keep the glasses on. But Well, thank you. It is really good to share this. This has been for El Marie and I, this has been a very dear and personal thing, and it's, especially for me, this has really been the bulk of my work, and this has been a journey for this to happen. So this is so. Strong Kids, Strong Emotions I'll just give the the official what it is. It is a play-based trauma resiliency program for Iraqi and Syrian refugee kids who are now living in Beirut. And I think, and I think just on the cusp of it becoming much more than that, and reaching more than just kids. But this is kind of, the core of it. And so trauma, that's a word that's starting to become, used more in our vernacular these days. And kind of how I use it is, trauma is something I think that we are all familiar with, especially during a global pandemic. One, trauma is something that, I think we've usually associated just with people who have, been through, the most horrific of a tornado, or been serving our country in war. And yet trauma is something that all people, or most people, have experienced at different levels. I think there are different kinds of trauma. There's different levels of it. And trauma is basically the when an experience, and it could be a short-term one event, or it could be a long period experience you've been in over years. But it's, when something distressing in your life has kind of overwhelmed our body's natural ability to cope. That's kind of one of the ways I understand trauma. And so it's not this big up there kind of thing. It's something, I think, if we look back to how things have been with us for the pandemic, we've all, or just some of the things going on in our political landscape the past several years, there's various types of trauma that we've experienced. And so I think it's a real relevant thing for what's going on in the Middle East, and something very relevant for what's going on with us in the US. And so I think it's really something important, and it's wonderful that we can talk about something that really impacts us. So here, let me share just a little bit of kind of the history of some of this. Let's see here. So there's so much to share. A little bit of my background before coming to the Middle East. I had been in parish pastoral ministry for a number of years, and really felt the call to be doing ministry kind of beyond the church walls. And so I took a year-long residency at Ohio State University Medical Center. That was a residency in trauma chaplaincy, or spiritual care, and just really fell in love with it. And at that same time, El Marie was really exploring a sense of our call to the Middle East, and taking a number of trips to Iraq. And so there was kind of a convergence at the end of my residency, and we pretty quickly left the US to go to the Middle East. So one of the things that that there isn't really avenues for traditional chaplaincy in Middle East hospitals at the moment. That's starting to change. But so one of the things that I was doing was I was going into refugee camps, spending time with refugees. And I bring this little, I have this puppet that's kind of, I've been using for years now. This is Rocco, if you can see, if my face is still there. This is Rocco, and Rocco is kind of a kid magnet. And the experience would be, I would go into a refugee camp, and there'd be like nobody around. Everyone was kind of in their tents or their little dwellings, um, and I would come out, and it was almost like, I would put Rocco on, and all of a sudden little heads would start to appear. And El Marie just laughs at me because of this, because like within minutes I would be swarmed with kids. And just some of my gifting is being able to connect with kids kind of on a real level. It wasn't like we did little puppet shows or presentations. It's just interacting with kids. And at that time, at the beginning, I didn't have a lot of Arabic. And so a lot of it was nonverbal. And then now that's changed a little bit. But one of the things that we found is there is something about play. And one of the things that we'll share, one of the things in the Strong Kids program as it's developed, that we still, as we grow in our expertise of learning trauma resiliency skills, one of my favorite things to do to this day is just to I have a suitcase full of craft supplies that you can see in this picture here, and I love to just pour it out on the tables and just tell the kids, why don't you make whatever your imagination is telling you to make? And so we don't like have a picture of, okay, make this. It's having them engage in their imagination. And sometimes they make little creatures, they make little versions of themselves. They will make they'll do pictures and stuff of the home that they miss, but they engage their creativity, and then we start to engage with them. And this is there's something that we've known about this since the beginning. And I just understood it scientifically a couple of weeks ago. One of my nursing friends, he told me that there is a connection. They're learning that there's this connection between anxiety and creativity, where it almost works like on a switch, where you can only be activating one of those capacities at the same time. So if you're highly anxious, if you're in a place of being highly anxious, it's like your creativity switches off and it's very difficult to be creative. But if you are engaging in a creative activity and you're truly engaging that, all your creative senses, it's very difficult to be anxious. And so there's something really healing in play. And that's kind of how this all got started. My colleagues at the Middle East Council of Churches, way back in 2014, started when we would go into camps together, they would notice this. And eventually they said, you need to be doing this in a program with our kids. And so we started this. I think back in 2017, officially, we started Strong Kids, Strong Emotions. We do this there is a place called Our Lady Dispensary. This is just an amazing place. It's just named Our Lady Dispensary because that's the name of the church that donates the facilities. But this is it is a social work medical hub in the Sabbatia neighborhood in Beirut, which is where there's kind of the highest concentration of Iraqi, Syrian, Palestinian refugees and vulnerable Lebanese. So this is kind of a hub for vulnerable families, and they provide all sorts of, not just medical assistance, but social work, care, classes for adults, classes in just wellness, resiliency, you name it, but helping people keep going. And that's really the thing with that we like to use is the word trauma resiliency. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit and tell me if I'm being a little scattershot here with the story. But right now, things in Lebanon are very tough, and El Marie will go into that more next week. But it's really a challenge. In even before 2019, things were very bad. Jobs are very difficult right now to find and keep. Right now, there's kind of a quadruple whammy for for the people in Lebanon, where the economy has crashed. So the value of the lira has gone from 1,500 lira to the dollar to, I think currently it's 30,000 lira to the dollar. So the bag of bread that once cost you 1,500 lira now costs 30,000 lira, and salaries have not increased. You have the Beirut port explosion. You have all the I forgot COVID. Yeah, did I say COVID? But multiple stresses all at the same time. And for refugee families, this is even more so. For refugee families, there's people, when they think of refugees, usually, you think of tents. There's a couple of those camps in Lebanon, but very few. For the most part, refugee families are living in apartments, and those are very expensive. And so usually several families living in one space, so there's no privacy. There are about 65 different classifications of employment in Lebanon. Refugees are allowed to work in about 3 of those. So you have, well-educated families that, they have a degree, a master's in engineering, and they are having to stock vegetables. So things are very, very difficult financially. There is all kinds of stress. The kids that we're working with, for most of them, were not born, or they were very young when their families had to flee ISIS. But there's a thing that we know called generational trauma. And that is that trauma gets passed down in so many different ways. And so, and kids are so intuitive. They know when the family, when the parent is stressed, the kids know this. And so, so the trauma that these kids are experiencing is very serious, even directly. The majority of these kids, even with loving families, domestic violence is very high because the stress of the parents is so high. So just trauma is an issue. And excuse me. So with that, the word I think the word I already used, I really like to use along with trauma, is not to use the word trauma alone, but to talk about trauma resiliency. Where in trauma, we ask the question, what happened to you? How did this hurt happen to you? Well, in resiliency, we like to ask, where are you strong? And this really gets at the body's natural ability for resilience. And so we really want to help the kids learn skills that are going to help them be resilient, and to learn how to take their different experiences of trauma that they feel. They feel the different sensations of trauma, the panic and the fear and the depression, and how to use skills to be able to, and we call it, reset the nervous system, so that they can have some wellness. Why this is so important, because when when kids are experiencing trauma, there's all these studies that have been done on this. Some of you might be familiar with ACEs. I'm not going to go into all of that, but basically studies have been done to show that when kids have had a number of trauma stressors in their lives, it impacts them for life in terms of their ability to get an education, to find meaningful, sustainable employment, to it even will, trauma even affects adult heart disease when the kid gets older. And so this is so that these kids can grow up and thrive. We want to be able to help them learn how to be resilient to that trauma in their lives. I'm going to just stop there for a second and just see if you have any questions, and then I might move on a bit. And any things that come to mind to you, you can just pipe up or share. On the screen there's a couple of our kids. I've got a, this is them cleaning up. Actually, I'll share one of the stories here with this. This picture was taken on our, we had to quit Strong Kids for about 9 months last year because of all of the COVID lockdowns, the protests in the streets, the gas shortage, all of those things combined together where we just could not have Strong Kids. And so after 9 months away, we had our first session. And as I said, my partner and I, we poured out craft supplies onto the tables, and the kids were having a blast. And after an hour, there were more craft supplies on the floor than on the table. And when it came time for our session to end, the kids just automatically started cleaning up. I don't even think we asked them. I think they just knew that. I think a few parents showed up, the kids started cleaning up. And so it's wonderful, and the floor was messy, and kids are running up trying to show us their little creations. And my partner, who I'll talk about later, Rana, our child psychologist, she and I were working with the kids, and we lock eyes, and Rana is just beaming, and she says, "I love this mess." And we have since then we have coined a phrase together, "Fauda Helwa," which in Arabic means beautiful mess. And I think that's the way I like to describe Strong Kids. It is a beautiful mess. So these kids, we do Iraqi and Syrian refugee kids for the most part, just because of migration patterns. The Iraqis in these neighborhoods tend to be Christian. The Syrians tend to be Muslim. We mix them together, so we have Christian and Muslim together. Largely the kids speak Arabic, some different dialects of Arabic. I do speak Arabic, although my Arabic is limited, and just with no background noise issues and multiple kids speaking in a couple of different dialects at the same time, I'm kind of limited. So I definitely work with the translator. But right now we are doing when we do a Strong Kids program, it lasts for 12 weeks, and we will do 2 sessions of 6 kids. So in one day, we will have 2 different groups that meet for about 2.5 hours. So 6 kids, and because of COVID, they're masked, although this little bugger on the left isn't. But we have tables that they each sit at their individual table. We have a very small space to work with, but we take all the precautions that we can. But that's just a little bit of the format. This is my partner, Rana. I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is a Lebanese. woman. She's a child psychologist. So we've been working together since about 2017, 2018, and it really is a partnership. That's been really amazing. I've been kind of the one that's been, the fuel getting this thing started, but it's really been done in partnership. What I'll kind of what's going on right now is so after a year or so of doing Strong Kids together, we were doing basically, kind of play therapy, teaching kids about their emotions. And we just started to realize that, okay, we only, even with the most ideal circumstance and just, buckets full of funding, we could even with the best situation, we're only going to have a limited number of kids we can ever work with. And it's just a drop in the ocean of need. So we just really started thinking about, okay, how can we expand the impact? It's wonderful that these kids have, 2.5 hours a week where they are loved and they get to heal and have this, but can we do more? And so I really started getting interested in researching different skills that people can learn that they can take home and begin to take control of their own trauma, and that's something that's going to have a lasting impact. And there's a couple of organizations that I'm involved with now, but the one that we particularly draw from here is a group called the Trauma Resource Institute. They're located in Claremont, California. And they do a thing called the Trauma Resource Model. And this was developed by a woman named Elaine Miller-Karras. She's a social worker, an activist, amazing woman. And I could talk a lot about the impact she's had, but she basically has taken, the best of neuroscience and put it into a practical set of skills that can be taught to local communities, regardless of language or reading ability. This is really meant for this is meant to be able to have people can learn these skills, and if they never meet us again, they're going to be able to practice these skills in their homes and teach them to their neighbors, and that this is going to be even if they never go to a therapist, they're going to be able to have some relief and functionality in their lives, even in the midst of experiencing trauma. And because of gifts from you folks and other congregations, the past 2 weeks, Rana has been going through the same training that I've been going through. So the past 2 weeks, she's been fully trained in the trauma resiliency model therapy. I've been coaching her for a couple of years on this, and finally we were able to raise the funds for her to go to the training itself. And so that's been really exciting. So a little bit, let me just tell you just a little bit how this works. It's this on the screen here. I made this because when we started up Strong, when we went off of hiatus and were able to start up Strong Kids again in the fall, we were told that, okay, the group of kids that we're going to get, even though there are 12-year-olds in this, they don't know how to read or write very well. And so we needed to put something that was going to be able to serve them, even if they have very limited reading and writing. And so I went on the internet and I found little clip art things and made this little poster. And I put these are all the skills that we do in Strong Kids. So there's 6 different skills that we use. And I made little symbols for each of them. And you see that they're also written in English. And that's because, as I said before, kids want to know English. That's the marketplace language. If they're going to be able to thrive in the marketplace, they want to know English. And so we do have it in English. I keep telling Rana, let's put it in Arabic too. And she's like, no, they want English. So that's why we do it that way. So these are 6 skills that we use. And the one at the bottom, you see this little map dot, this is the little symbol you see on Google Maps. This is tracking. And what we do, kind of one of the foundational things that we do, is we teach kids to notice the sensations in their body. Because when we talk about trauma, we like to say that all of the feelings of trauma that you have of the panic and the depression and all of those things, that trauma is biology. It's not weakness. It's not that you are crazy. It's not that you're a bad person or you've not been good or strong. Trauma is a natural thing that happens because of how we've been lovingly created. Everyone knows about the fight or flight response. If you see a snake, your body senses that snake, and then all of a sudden you feel all of this energy, your blood sugar changes, your heartbeat increases, your eyes dilate, you're ready to either smash that snake or run away. And that's one of the beautiful ways that God has designed us to respond to threats. And then when you realize that dangerous snake is just a garden hose, then your body switches and it goes into rest, and it tells you everything's okay, and your blood sugar changes, your breathing goes back to normal, your heart rate goes back to normal, and it's time to rest and digest your food. Everything goes back to normal. One of the problems is our nervous system is wonderful in how it's been designed that way. One problem with our nervous system is it doesn't know how to tell time. And so there can be something really awful that happened in the past, and our body might sense a reminder of that. Maybe it's just grandma's perfume or a loud car backfiring that sounds like a gunshot, but our body will activate to a past experience like it's happening right now. And it's kind of like a car alarm. A car alarm, we know they're wonderful, helpful devices. And yet sometimes, we'll be walking down the street and a car alarm will go off for no reason, even when there's no burglar in sight. Just a gust of wind will set off that car alarm. And that's the same thing with our trauma responses. Or sometimes, it's very good that car alarm went off because there was somebody that was trying to mess with the car, but I don't know how to shut off that car alarm, and it keeps going and going and going. And that's kind of why we try to work with trauma, because sometimes a past experience can get triggered, and even when everything is safe, or sometimes we don't know how we get activated and we don't know how to get back to normal. And so there are skills that can help us with that. So one of the things that we do, so you see these, all these little creations of our kids, we call them mini-me's. And when we do a Strong Kids session, the first thing we love to do is to have our kids make mini-me's. And they love doing this because, one, it's just that healing, creative time. For refugee kids, craft supplies is a huge luxury, because when parents can't even get food on the table, there's definitely no money for craft supplies. And most of these kids, even though they're young kids, they're either working or to help provide some money, or they are taking care of their younger siblings. And so the space to play just doesn't exist. And so for 2.5 hours a week, these kids get to play. So that's one of the things about the mini-me's, but then we use them for something else. We help them to monitor their own trauma responses. And we have a thing that we call the resilient zone, or the okay zone. And this is kind of where for all of us, we go through our day, and there's good things that happen. There's not so good things that happen. There's ups and downs during the day. There might be something that kind of gets me angry, but then I go, I go back to normal. We all do this throughout our day. And so, we teach kids to measure where they're at in their resilient zone. And so the mini-me's help with that. But sometimes, in the day, there might be something that happens that really upsets me, and that bumps me up into the high zone. That's kind of above here. So you see the kind of the mini-me's that are up higher. That's the high zone when I'm frightened, or irritated, or just upset. You're bumped into that high zone, and it's hard to get back, and sometimes you get stuck up there and you don't know how to get back down. Or sometimes you get down into the low zone down at the bottom there. That's when I just feel numb or depressed or just profoundly sad, and I get bumped down there, and it's hard to get back into the okay zone. And so first we help kids notice when they're in the okay zone, when they're in the high zone, when they're in the low zone. So we use these mini-me's, and we talk about different things that happen during their week, and when they're in the okay zone, high zone, low zone. We do all of that. And then we teach them, how to move from the high zone back into the okay zone, or from the low zone back into the okay zone. And we have different skills that teach them how to do this. And here's just a picture of our kids here. So there's all kinds of different skills that can be that we teach them. Everything from drinking a glass of water and just noticing that nice cold liquid going down my throat into my belly. That's one of the calming strategies that our kids like a lot. Another thing we do, we call it the Hulk, and that's just like pressing up against the wall, or sometimes we'll take the plastic 2-liter bottles, and we'll just smash them against the floor, and makes a loud noise. And part of what hulking does is when we're really upset, that fight or flight response has activated. The body's saying, run away, or fight that bad thing. And so our body's telling us to fight or flee something that's not there. And so we keep in that agitated, upset state because there's nothing to run away from. And so when we do the Hulk and we push up against a wall, or we'll run really fast, or we'll smash that pop bottle, that is releasing all of the energy, and we're telling our body that, see, okay, we ran away. We fought that scary thing. And then the body says, oh, okay, now I can go back to normal. And so that's how some of those skills work. So that's kind of part of what we do. Here's one of our kids, once again, not using his mask, but that's part of the mess sometimes. Just one example of the skills, one of the real basic ones that we do is just called resourcing. And that's where we help the kids focus on a memory or a person or something that gives them strength and hope, comfort. And sometimes that could be a memory of just something, hey, I had a really yummy donut this morning, or it might be something more powerful. Like for me, my resource is El Marie's laugh. And when I focus on that, I think that, yeah, I focus on the different sensations of wellness that I feel when I think about that. And so we help them track in on their resources and to be able to use that. So that's just kind of in a little bit of a nutshell of what we do. One of the two little stories. One is a while back, Rhonda came to me. She was talking to one of our kids, and one of our kids said, this is the only time during the week when I feel happy. And that's a real bittersweet thing for me, because on one hand, it just aches that kids are having so much stress and trauma and unhappiness that they feel that way. And I also feel glad that they're at least getting 2.5 hours a week where they can be a kid and they can learn some skills that are going to hopefully increase and move that 2.5 hours to 3 hours, 4 hours, whole days. That's why we do Strong Kids. So I'll stop there. And just any questions, thoughts, responses?
Do you get to keep up with these kids at all after they complete the program?
Yeah, we do. One of the things that we do with Strong Kids is these are families that are all connected with Our Lady Dispensary, and this, boy, that could be a whole other presentation of what these folks do, but they're just amazing. And the staff is made up of Christian, Muslim, most we have a social worker that's been there for ages and ages, but I think a good part of the staff are themselves refugees, but they and we try to work with kids whose parents are engaged in other programs at Our Lady Dispensary, OLD, so that what the kids are learning isn't just a completely foreign thing from what the parents are learning. The parents right now are not doing specifically the trauma resiliency model. That's hopefully going to change with Rana now learning these skills, but still, the ideas of trauma and wellness, and it's not a foreign thing. And we know that these families are in the loop of getting support and help. So that's been really important. So yes, we do keep in contact with these kids, and it really is fun because some of these families, they came to Lebanon and their hope was to get to another country where they can start their lives again, like the US or Germany or Australia. And some of these families, some of the kids that we're working with now, I have pictures of them when they were toddlers, and some of them are able to immigrate and move on, but a lot of them have been here for a long time. So yeah, we are able to keep up with them, and that's really wonderful. So we're always working with new groups of kids so we get more and more kids in on this experience, but we do, we do see some of the same faces, quite often.
If you don't have any more slides, maybe if we stop the screen share.
Yeah, let's do that.
Who's on Zoom if they have.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay.
I know people on Zoom are also muted, so if you have a question to speak up, or a comment, or just something that's inspired you about Scott's presentation, I think I'm going to carry with me that concept of creativity and anxiety and the relationship between the two. I think that's really interesting. I never heard that before. So thanks for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, it's something I've intuitively known for years now. And yet, for 5 years, we've been basing what we do on that, but I just understood it better scientifically,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah. Other questions, comments?
It's just interesting that we just had Dr. Shi talking about ACEs and
Oh,
incarcerated, and the same approach can work with kids anywhere, universally.
yes.
And can parents be trained? Maybe that's what you're saying, Rona's going to do, is do some work with parents, training them in these skills.
Yes. Yes, and the the ACEs study has been so helpful. I mean, it's been overwhelming because it's made us aware of a huge epidemic that we need to deal with. But yeah, the ACEs, I think that's a big motivator in, okay, we got to start working with families around this. Yeah. Everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Other thoughts?
I wish we could come visit.
Yeah, yeah, it would be wonderful for you to come visit. And we are two thoughts. One, with increasing technology and all that stuff, it is great that we can at least create opportunities to get close to, do as much as we can without a physical visit. Next month, I am going to be another one of our partner churches. This is in Southern California. We are going to be, they have a kids program that, so it's going to be, I think, about about 50, 100 early elementary kids. And we're going to teach them some of the same trauma skills that we do with Strong Kids. So I'm going to do a presentation on Strong Kids, but really focus it on teaching the kids and their leaders and their parents some of these basic trauma skills. And that's just a way of, because that is an issue that this particular community is dealing with, and it's a way of creating kind of a bond where the thing that's helping this group is the same thing that their partners in the Middle East are doing. And so it's kind of a way of visiting and extending the relationships. So there's a lot of creative ways we can do that.
I love that. Yes.
And then let me just add to that, just the things that you do to establish relationship. Our partners in the Middle East know this. This in the Middle East, it's a relationship culture, and we tell them all the loving ways that you engage with us, but also they're aware. And in a relationship culture, when we tell them that you are praying for them, they take that to heart. They don't look at that lightly. That means something to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
your time this morning, and I learned a lot from that presentation. I'm excited to hear from Elmarie next week.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys do some amazing work there.
Well, and we do it in partnership, and so we are just so grateful. That's been that keeps us going. You know, I think these visits, I think they're probably they are incredibly good for El Marie and I, because it just it refocuses us. It helps us realize how God is using this whole thing, and it helps us remember that we're not doing this alone.
Right.
Yeah, this is a very far-fetched, I don't know where it came from, sort of question. But with
Those are the best.
all the modern technology we have nowadays, have you ever thought of establishing mutual classrooms between different cultures and people?
Yeah, and we are actually that is something we are working on. You know, I mean, that's a there are just there is no end to the challenges to that, but it is something that we are taking baby steps towards. I mean, just one of the challenges,
Yes.
excuse me, of that is, well, of course, language
Yeah.
is one challenge, but that's one, there's ways that we've been able to overcome the language. The hardest thing right now is, in a place like Lebanon, internet access.
Yes.
Right now, and we think things are going to get worse. Right now, the city or the government is providing 2 hours at best of electricity,
Oh.
at best. And so the rest of it comes from generator subscriptions. So you pay money to subscribe to a generator that at best will give you maybe 10 hours a day. And that is unreliable and doesn't help everything. And so, and people can't afford generator subscriptions now. So those kinds of limits, and you have people who are, who are trying to attend school during this. So huge obstacles to that. And at the same time, there is such a desire. And so we are working on that. And so actually El Marie's doctoral work is involving a project where there would be a joining of students from the US with students from the Middle East. And so that's a very specific project that she is working on. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. There's joining relationships. There's a lot that happens with that. And so that is something we're working on.
All right, well, I think since we're approaching our time, I will close us with prayer and say bye until next week.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
let's pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks this morning for the ministry of healing and love that Scott and Marie have, or El Marie have in the Middle East. We thank you for all of the kids who have found a new way to find healing after going through such traumatic experiences. God, we pray that you would guide their steps as they envision what's next for their program and how to expand it. God, we pray your blessing on them today and on their work for tomorrow. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
All right, well, we're excited to hear from you again next week. Thanks everyone for joining us, those of you on Zoom and those of you here. Yeah.
Well, thank you, friends.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. This was great.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, learned a lot.
Okay, bye-bye, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.